I'm Dana. Welcome to Made Every Day. I'm gonna help you make cool things using everyday items. And today we're making my favorite baby blanket. It's my favorite because it takes about 20 minutes to make. So let's get started. You can never have too many blankets, and what I love about this one is the simplicity of it. We're basically gonna take a large piece of fabric and bind it with my favorite item, bias tape. Here's what you need. A large square of soft fabric such as knit or flannel, and enough bias tape to go around the perimeter. I love a good reason to use bias tape because it's fun, it's cute, and it adds that extra pop of color on a project. And I always have a big stash of it on hand so that I'm ready to go. You can purchase it at the store in these little packages, or you can easily make your own. And I've got a detailed step-by-step video about this on my website and YouTube channel. Now basically, bias tape is a binding that is folded in half so we can sandwich the fabric right in the middle there and then sew around the top. Comes in a variety of widths. This is my favorite, 1/2 inch wide. You can also use 1 inch wide, which I did on this blanket. Both of them work great. Now let's talk about fabric. Now when you're making baby blankets, you really want to use something soft, such as a knit or a flannel. For this blanket, we're using an interlock knit, which is a slightly heavier fabric than jersey knit, which is what most t-shirts are made out of. You can purchase it in fabric stores. It comes in solid colors and sometimes even in prints. And you can make your blanket any size. You can make a receiving blanket, you can make a little cuddle blanket, you can make a doll blanket. But here's a little math for you. I found that from a fat quarter of fabric, I can make 4.5 yards of 1/2 inch wide bias tape, which is exactly enough to bind a 40 by 40 inch wide receiving blanket. Today, however, we are going to make a little cuddle blanket, which is about 20 by 20 inches here. And this is great for your child to hold in the car, to snuggle, or to take to the doctor's office. I've already cut my piece of fabric 20 by 20 inches, but the first thing I want to do is to round off the corners. So take a bowl or anything round that you have, place it right on the corner, and use a marker to just trace right around that bowl. Now you could leave them just as they are, but I find that it's a little bit easier when you have rounded corners to bind your bias tape in one large piece and sew all the way around. Okay, now cut each of those corners out, nice and round. You can use a rotary cutter for this as well. I am kind of a scissors girl, unless I'm cutting really straight lines, so use whatever your preferred method is. And we have a nice rounded piece of fabric. Now we just need to bind it with the bias tape. This is double fold bias tape, which means that it's folded in half so we can sandwich the fabric right inside, as opposed to single fold, which is flat. Now take note that one side is slightly wider than the other. You want the part that is less wide to be on top, the part that you're going to sew on. And this ensures that you're going to sew completely through to the back without the thread showing onto the fabric. So just start pinning. And at the very beginning and end of your bias tape, you're going to want to leave about 2 inches here that we're going to sew together at the very end. Now that we're done pinning, we need to finish off these raw edges on the bias tape. So what you want to do is unfold each end of the bias tape, place right sides of the fabric together, matching them up. This can be a little tricky, but we gave ourselves some extra room when we were pinning. And then we're going to sew right down the edge here. When we're done with that, we can fold the bias tape back around the blanket and sew the whole blanket together. So let's sew this piece. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, just sew right down that edge. Super simple. And you can see we have our little sewn edge there. And then you want to fold the whole thing back up and put it right around your blanket. Ta-da! Nice finished edge. Now pin that in place and let's sew around the entire thing. This is the last step here. You can see why I love this blanket. It's so fast, it's so easy. So just place your blanket under here. What you want to do is sew as close to the edge of that bias tape as you can. I don't know if there's a proper term for that. Maybe it's 1/8 of an inch away. I don't know. So as close as you can get without sewing over onto the fabric. And I like to sew over my pins. Some people like to take them out. I think it's nice because it keeps everything in place. And just keep going around and around. And we've reached the end here. Just do a little back stitch. And there you go. Now you got to take out all your pins. And the other thing I do is a little quality inspection. Go around the entire blanket, make sure there aren't any holes or spots where the bias tape did not get sewn, and sew over those little spots, and you're done. And there you go. You have got a cute little cuddle blanket for your child to snuggle with. For more patterns and tutorials, go to my website, danamadeit.com, and click the subscribe button to be updated with all of our latest videos. I will see you next time.